Welcome everyone to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Jose.
I'm Mike.
So I hated it.
It. We're talking about it.
Sorry, it.
Capital I, capital T.
Yes.
It. It's like that.
Yeah. So I'm speaking from the point of view of a certain kind of ignorance. I mean, I know that the Stephen King novel is so popular and beloved by people and everything, and that
I think it was a part of a lot of people's childhoods.
Yes.
Not mine.
Not mine.
I never read it. I read some Stephen King, but not this.
Yes.
But I know of it. Huge. I knew that there was a clown that was creepy, and that it came back every 27 years. That's essentially what I knew.
Well, I didn't know anything about it. What I've come out with is that it's really poor. I think it's really badly made. It obviously has connections to those childhood coming-of-age films like Stranger Days and Stand By Me and E.T. in a way, I suppose, in some degree, and the television Strange Days. It's kind of, you have the horrors of childhood, or childhood seen through a lens of combating horrors and so on, is something that they all have in common. And of course, the clown figure, which I think actually is very well done.
Pennywise.
Yeah, is very creepy and frightening in life. So, that I think kind of is interesting in the film. But I thought it was very poorly acted, very badly staged, very obvious.
Obvious in what way?
Well, you could see very crude, right? So the mother of the kid who is taking placebos, right? Kind of, it's just too excessive to make her fat and to make her skin look like that, and I mean, it's just
there's no subtlety to
there's no subtlety
design.
And actually, I don't like the filmmaker's point of view on that class of people, really. Like, if you look, they're all meant to be like lower working class people or lower middle class people, and the way that their homes and their parents and their home life and so on is depicted, it's really kind of upsetting, really, And I thought all unnecessary,
Is there an argument to be made that you're seeing this through the children's eyes, if they're your perspective, and they hate this place? A few of them talk about leaving at points to say we want to grow up and get out of here.
Yes, but there's a way. It's true that running away from home is part of childhood. It's kind of it's something that many people feel at some point in their childhood, which is why it seems to me so unnecessary to make the father a child molester.
The thing about the father being a child molester, obviously, it's essentially it's heavily implied, but it's
clear.
More,
it's clear. I mean,
it's clear. That led to, I think, some of the strongest characterization, to be honest, because there was actually something substantial to latch onto. And I think the girl who plays Beverly,
she's very good.
She is very good,
yeah,
and I think she plays it very well. And I was convinced by that drama, by that relationship between the two characters. I actually thought it was going to go the way of saying, because the thing about it, which is Pennywise the clown ultimately, but what it does is it transforms into what you fear the most. So you've got this Jewish kid who fears this creepy painting,
yes,
and you've got the hypochondriac kid whose mother gives him all these placebos. He fears being ill and infected. And the girl, I thought was going to be that the girl. I thought it was almost going to be that the girl didn't. That the clown didn't affect her because she had something actually real in her life to fear, her father, which of course isn't the case. The clown does affect her, but what the clown ultimately does is turn into her father.
Yes.
But that was by far and away the best of all those relationships between Pennywise and the children. That was the best one. She was the best character.
Well, I think she was the best character because she was the almost like the only actress. The children were well, I was going to say uniformly poor, but that's not true.
No, the fat kid I like.
Yeah. So we're of
And
one
I like
mind
the
there.
hypochondriac kid. I think.
Oh,
He's
I
got
did not.
No, he's got some nice little bits of attitude.
Oh, I thought they were trying to make him into, like, him and the kid with the glasses.
He's a dickhead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but
he does a lot of trying to be funny, and he's the character in the group who is always the one making the dirty jokes, which is totally a real guy. He's in everyone's group, but I think you are meant to actually find him funny, and he's just not.
Well, I think exactly. You're meant to find him funny, and he's not.
Yeah.
So, and I think there were a lot of things about the film like that. I mean, did you find it scary?
I absolutely shit myself repeatedly. I was
Really?
watching the whole film through my fingers. Did you not see?
No.
I can't stand it, and it's not.
I thought you were just in excruciating pain from watching something so shit.
No. I also liked it more than you did, but I wasn't incredibly taken by it. But the problem I have with it was very much like, I remember like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I saw Drag Me to Hell, the Sam Raimi film.
Oh, that's really good.
No, I don't like that at all.
I love that.
The problem I have with Drag Me to Hell, although I think that the plot, I think, is probably better. It's a while since I've seen it, but what I really don't like about it is that it's a ghost train, essentially. It's loud, and it rattles things at you, and things jump at you. And that's all that all is scary. Like, I don't, like, it brings out a fear response in me, but it's anyone can do that. Anyone can do it. It's jump scares, essentially, what we're talking about, and very loud noises. And it does a lot of this as well.
This film is full of that.
And I think it's really basic film. Like, people I think, say sometimes that horror is, to a degree, it's a kind of pure filmmaking. Like, it's about, if you can pare things down and just use camera movements and editing and sound to create fear. But I think actually there's a side of it which is really easy, which is just ramping everything up and making things jump at you. That is technically scary. I was scared, but I didn't. It's not like an enjoyable, honest version of being scared.
Yes, I mean, I always think, if you want to make somebody cry, to make someone cry.
See, that's easy. I can do that.
Yeah. So to make someone cry, or to make someone scared, is easy, right? And actually, the way that this film scares you is easy. And the most effective scary moment for me was at the very beginning.
Yes,
right.
You
put a child and you put a drain, and and the child is going to die, and of course, like, when you're scared, you jump out of your seat, right? And actually, I thought that was wrong to do it that way, because once you do it that way,
what, the jump scares, or I'm sorry, what was wrong?
Using the child in this way.
Okay.
Because actually none of the other scary elements were ever as scary. I switched off.
You don't mean morally wrong. You just mean wrong because it set a standard that the rest of the film didn't live up to.
But, yeah, and I don't mean morally wrong at all.
Right.
But I just thought that so films, scary films, the way that in a way you judge them, it's also how they're scary and what they're scary about, right?
Yeah.
And some of them could be quite crude. And some of them, like, I think Drag Me to Hell, for me in a way is very interesting because, the film was all about, what scared people in that film was, like, financial ruin and, the after effects of the crisis and the losing of the home and, the social injustice in that. This film has none of that, right? It's just kind of clown kids, to use the child at the beginning, who's like the most vulnerable, and it's set up for you so that there's bonds of love between the brothers, and the making of the boat, and then the tripping through the storm to see how fast it's going, and then to it
was a wonderfully effective opening.
It was a wonderfully effective opening, but nothing that the film does after
is as good. I think you're absolutely right. But I do like the central idea when they. So all the kids have this shit scared out of them by this clown in their own individual ways. And I think some of those sequences, despite the fact that they use some, it's kind of quite loud, a lot of that. I do think that some of the design of the things that scare them is quite good and quite effective. Like, I mean, money has been spent on this film.
Yes.
and it shows. And the production is, I think, of really high quality. You don't feel like the effects are crap. You don't feel like the reason that you're not being scared or that you're being scared for the wrong way is because of a lack of effort or kind of work. It's just not the right kind of filmmaking, really. I guess. You know what I mean?
It's a lousy director.
But I think some of the actual design things... I mean, there are things like the headless guy that chases the fat kid moves in this jerky, quick way that is terrifying. It really scared me.
The effects are very good. So
there are elements of design that are really great. The bathroom getting covered in blood.
Yes.
Ooh.
I know, that reminded me of Carrie,
which is more Stephen King, obviously.
Yeah.
So all the kids have been scared, and they discuss, we've all seen this creepy stuff going on, what's happening as this clown.
Yeah.
They realise that their unity is what makes them strong.
Yes.
I like that. I mean, it's very simple.
It was very poorly done, though.
Yes.
Because the film could have done more out of structuring, like each child confronting fear on their own, and then actually realizing that they were all seeing the same thing. And
too much of it happens through dialogue.
Yeah,
a lot of it happens through saying, "We've all seen this clown, and it feeds on fear, and if we aren't scared of it, then it can't kill us," and so on. And that all happens in dialogue. And actually, when it should be happening through action, it's not clear enough.
Mm.
I think you kind of get the point, but it's not evocative enough.
Yeah, you get the point, but you get it like a thud. It's kind of hammered in and made obvious and stupid. I thought it was very poor storytelling. So, for example, remember the fat kid is he's a geek, he's alone, he's relegated to the library, and he's got this research project where he's finding out all of this stuff, right? Which ostensibly, narratively, you should find out what caused this clown thing to arise. What is the origin of this clown threat every 27 years? And the film never explains it, right? So it kind of invests all that time in kind of setting the grounds for an explanation, and it never delivers.
Yeah. Then I think they said something about Indians probably moving in. It's always an Indian burial ground. I think it might be. I'm not sure.
To blame for everything.
No, I mean, I'm not just purely making it up. They certainly said something about that in the film when the kid's showing them his walls covered in all the research. But I don't know if I've heard that or not.
They said
anyway. It's not the point.
They said but the point is that it should have been the point. We should know, right? You don't spend that much time setting up something in a film and have the audience come out with not having a clue as to what caused. I
must say, I didn't care where the clown came from. I must say, if we find out in the second film, because there will be a second film, because this whole idea of this clown is it goes away after 27 years, and I know that the book takes place in these two timelines where one's set in the youth and one's set in adulthood. So there will be a second film
set in the present,
which I look forward to seeing.
Yes.
And that may explain where the clown comes from. But honestly, I don't really care. A lot of the time, when you have something, particularly something supernatural, explaining where it comes from is just, it could be anything, or it's a waste of time. It doesn't matter to me, really.
But then if it doesn't matter, why spend... Because, I'm not invested. I don't personally have a need to know.
Yeah.
But actually, the film lays out so much information that actually you feel that there is a need to know, right? Because it sets up all the diagrams, it shows the sewers, it shows what was connected in history. It has all these old photographs, and then kind of like there's no payoff.
The idea of it being, the idea of the clown being something that feeds on fear, and you combat it by being together and refusing to show it fear, was enough for me. All the background, the research that the kid does about how long it's been there, that to me had a payoff in that they found out the where it lives, the house, because they look at the diagram of the sewers and they look at where all the kids were taken, and they connect it all, and they say the sewers all meet up at this one house. So that was the payoff for me there. Which is fair enough that it wasn't enough for you. It was enough for me. I didn't feel that it was kind of setting things up that it didn't, that it refused to pay off in that respect.
Well, I mean, I suppose there, yeah. So to backtrack a bit, there is some kind of payoff in the sense that what you learn is that it happens every 27 years, that it's connected by sewers, and that the central place where this thing where it lives is an old well.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean that is kind of what you discover through the kids, but again, I thought if that's what you need, if that's the only thing you need to discover, then there's too much effort has been expanded for too little payoff, really.
Maybe.
So that's kind of one of the many critiques for me of the film. I would have liked also some larger sense of logic of the way that the clown kills, right? So kind of having...
Well, yes, what the clown eventually does with the kids. Does it kill them? Does it eat them? Because they end up floating in this well, which you see at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
You see this pile of old stuff and these dead bodies floating in the air.
Yes.
You go, well, have they been eaten? What's happening?
Well, on the one hand, you get the feeling that they have been really killed, because otherwise the boy would have been rescued.
Yeah, no, they are dead. I think you can see that they're dead. But whether they've been kind of...
Are they like food storage for the next 27 years?
Because supposedly hundreds of these kids have gone missing over the years.
Yeah. I mean, it was just it's a mess, really.
It is a bit. But I didn't hate it, despite the fact that I do hate this kind of filmmaking, and it's a story that's not told very well. I didn't hate it. I didn't even have a shit time, really. To an extent, I like a film attacking me. As much as I hate it as well, it's punishment. But it's like I know it was voluntary.
I didn't hate it, but I was bored. Which is worse. I really was bored.
The parts with the villain that I enjoyed the most were when Pennywise is speaking and interacting. I think that's always the best thing about a villain, is they don't even have to be like explain themselves. It doesn't have to be the big villain monologue, But it could just be the thing where instead of having a fight, when they're talking, that's always so much more interesting, and it can be so much more intimidating. So the very opening of the film, it's not just that the kid ends up looking at this clown in the drain and then he gets taken. There's a long conversation between the clown and the child, where the clown is talking, and the clown's talking about, do you like circuses? And what's your favourite part? And it's creepy as fuck. And you go, what the hell's going to happen here? And the clown is so off track. In fact, who plays the clown?
Whoever is very good.
Bill Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård plays Pennywise. Yeah. He's fantastic. Yes. He has this crazy look about him. Who knows how much it was done with, because the eyes point in different directions. Yes. So, that must be. There must be added things going on. Obviously, his head is all, and he's a big clown. Yeah. So they've done things to him, but obviously the performance really shines. He has this terribly creepy smile. These eyes that pierce and.
Yes, I mean he's very good. So let's be clear. Like the reason why I find the film kind of so bad, and I do find it very, very bad. It's not because of the clown, who's very good. It's not because of the effects. It's not because of the story. Yeah, it really is because of the way that it's told.
The execution. The execution is terrible. Much less than some of its parts. Yeah. It is actually. You're right.
And some things actually still don't make sense. Maybe you can explain them to me if you know. Like, for example, why, like, the parents, I thought, were all uniformly dreadfully conceived, really. So, the father of the first boy who says, ask me before you borrow something. There's all these parents who are different kinds of bad, right? So, the bullying teenager who kills his father, and you get the sense that there's some kind of abuse there as well. But what I didn't understand was, as a clearer example, was just the difference in point of view. When the girl, she cuts her hair and the sink attacks her, and it ends up with blood gushing into the whole bathroom, and the father comes in and he can't see it, and she thinks she's going mad, and she brings the other children in to see whether they see it. What is that about?
My instinct there is that the dad isn't real, and the dad is a manifestation of Pennywise. That's why I can't, because every other instance of people both looking at something that the clown has done or is doing, they can always all see it. So I think that the dad wasn't the actual dad. I think the dad was the...
Okay, so where was the actual dad, or does she have a dad at all?
Yeah, no, the dad is real, but at that point, the dad was just not home.
Okay.
or was in the... whatever. But that was Pennywise, I think, making the dad.
Okay, well, you see, that wasn't clear.
It wasn't clear, but I don't think it's that unfair.
I do. Okay. Because, if...
I think you've already been given the indication that the dad is sexually abusing his daughter. That was the first time you meet the dad. But he says, "Are you still my little girl?" And he holds her hair, and then she goes and cuts it off, and then it's a later scene where the sink explodes.
Yes,
and the dad comes in, which I think is clear is the imagined dad, because the point is that you've already seen the dad is abusive.
I know, but have you had any imagined things like that earlier in the film, though?
Yeah, that wasn't the first. That wasn't the
what
first.
What were the other
vision.
Instances?
I'm going to try and, if I remember the order that they went in. The fat kids being chased by the headless bloke. That was before that. But
is that meant to be
what?
But that's different than having like a character. In
the
film,
I agree, but I think,
so yes, you have clowns.
I don't think
monsters.
It's necessarily meant to be clear at the time, but I don't think it's unfair that you can then go back and say, "Oh, that's what that was." I don't think it's necessarily unfair that something confuses you at the time.
Well, I don't think so either. So long as there's a logic, and I'm trying to find one, and I'm not finding one.
Okay. Well, from my perspective, I think there was a logic, even though it's taking me to explain it to you.
Not very well, and not very convincingly.
I think it is convincing, just because, again, it may be the execution. If you think that the film wasn't doing it, that's fine. But I think there was a logic there.
Okay.
I picked up on it because I'm smart as shit and I pay attention.
through your fingers.
Through my fingers, I honestly, it shut me right up for that.
Okay,
film.
well, in that sense, I suppose that's our difference.
Mind you, we saw it in IMAX.
Yeah.
With LieMAX. So the sound was louder, you couldn't get away from the screen.
It's too much, the
Why did we do that?
Sound.
I'm so glad we didn't see it in 4DX.
I would have hated that.
Oh my goodness.
Being joshed around in your chair with like rain on your head or something.
I must say, I don't really, as much as I hate films like this, I also really like them, because where else are you going to, be tortured like that without, at least you get to go home after.
Well, like, I've changed my mind about horror films because I really didn't like them. I don't particularly like being scared, and I didn't enjoy them. But then over the last few years, I thought some of the most interesting social critiques were being done through the horror genre. Right, like the films were really dealing with what scares us, not only like psychically or interpersonally, but also socially. Right, and I was finding. Like that film about Ethan Hawke, where once a year you're allowed to kill somebody.
That's the first one that comes to mind for me. The home invasion thing's been going on for a long time, to be fair.
Yeah.
But they did it with this political edge.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
The first Purge was.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, I tried to watch the others.
So anyway, I kind of but I think for me the way that you judge these films is fundamental. I mean, did they scare you or not? And the answer for me is no. It didn't.
It scared me. What can I say? I was caring.
Yes,
but there was a lot of easy, unfair scares. I mean, I guess maybe it sounds a bit harsh to say they're easy scares, but there was little creativity in the way it scared. You put it that way. Like there is still technique in doing it right and making it scary.
Very cheap thrills.
There is still filmmaking technique in doing that effectively, but it is still a type of filmmaking that requires no real imagination. The imagination is in what do the things look like, and how do they move and so on. And I think there was imagination on display there.
Yes.
Yeah. And there was also, as I say, kind of the production in the design of the actual things was fantastic.
Yes,
it really was.
I think we could agree on that, actually. So all the below the line stuff was very good. All the above the line stuff, I think, for me, left a lot to be.
Yeah. Although most of the kids weren't very good performers.
No, they were. They
Was
were
just the girl and the fat kid, and for me, I like the other one kid, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Obviously, the guy who plays Pennywise is fucking great. He's a properly good, creepy bloke. Pennywise.
Yes, he is.
You really don't know what he's going to do.
He is, but I think it's almost like inexcusable for a film about children, to have the majority of them be so poor.
Yeah, maybe. Unless it's about that. I mean,
What do you mean? The film is not about a clown making really terrible child actors.
Sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you meant poor as in no money.
Oh no.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, no. I mean, you're right. They were not amazing. There was obviously the film has been updated to the 80s because the original book was written in the 80s, so I assume it would have been. I think it was set in the 60s. Hold on. It's set in the late 50s. So obviously it's been updated to the 1980s because then it's set in 1988, so 27 years later will be 2015, so it'll be nice and modern when the sequel comes out. And so I think partially it's so they can update it to 2015 next time and so on. But a lot of it is clearly banking on this 80s nostalgia that seems to be making come back. It's Stranger Things, essentially.
Yes.
And while I don't hate that, I think to an extent it is. The people who read the book, which came out in 1986, will have grown up. There'll be a lot of, big part of the target market. So there'll be a lot of nostalgia involved because it was their childhoods when they read this book. So it's their childhoods that are on the screen. But it's sometimes really heavy with it. Like there's one point where all of the characters have fought Pennywise together. It's end of the second act sort of region, remember, when they've stabbed him in the face. And they're outside, and it's a hugely stressful time, and they are shouting at each other and going, oh my God, what's happened? And then the one kid, the kid who's trying to be funny all the time, says about the girl who even invited Molly Ringwald, because she looks a bit like Molly Ringwald. And you go, certainly not at this point in the movie was a line that glib and stupid need to be said. And it was really hitting hard this 80s stuff, that you see them playing the arcade at the one point, and it has a big close-up of Street Fighter.
Yes.
And you've got the New Kids on the Block reference twice.
Yes, and Lethal Weapon is really playing at the cinema.
This doesn't need to... It's nostalgia almost for people who probably actually never even experienced the 80s. Probably people my age, I'm 29, who think that they remember the 80s. And it's like, we didn't.
The problem is that I think probably the people making these films are now 40 or something. So actually it is like their childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean... So it's...
But it was too heavy.
It's their own investment, and it's not necessarily the audience's investment at all. I kind of...
but I think there's a cynical aspect to it.
There is.
There's a money-making part isn't there?
Anyway, I think it's a cynical film, so...
Yeah, maybe the case. But Pennywise scared the fucking dog shit out of me.
Well, in any case, it's a phenomenal success in America.
It's doing very nicely.
Yeah.
Box office wise, it's where is it? It's been out since September. It's been out this weekend only.
In one weekend, it's made
$220 million and counting. So, domestic. Worldwide, 370.
It's one of those films that's critic-proof, but really, it's not very good.
Have the critics been harsh to it?
I don't know.
I bet they liked it. I bet they said, "Oh, this is clever." Probably in that voice. 85% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right. That's shameful. Sorry, but I have to do that because
close that window, bitch.
The wind chill is getting to me. Okay, so let's wrap it up.
Why would you ever fucking just go away on your own if you're a kid with the creepy clown around? Stay with your mates. Idiots.
Well, you see, again, I thought that was something that was very well done because you get the feeling that they're hypnotized, right?
Yeah.
That the clown is drawing them out. But that could have been made so much better and created more tension around it. There's a moment where you say, why is that idiot going? And you should realize, well, it's not because the kid's an idiot, it's because the clown is doing something. Yeah, like...
I know, I was taking the piss.
Oh.
No, you're right. But that was actually good. That was actually good.
What is your defense of this movie exactly?
No, I'm saying that was good. That was clear. Because and again, they do this through dialogue. Initially, they say the clown wants to isolate us. The clown wants to drive us apart. But then when it actually does it, it is very effective. And actually, the moment
I don't think it's effective.
It is. There's a central fight in the film where 3 of the kids go into the house together, and they have this in their heads that we need to stay together. And not only does the clown draw them away by he lures the kid at the back, and then the other 2 walk off in front without noticing, and the kid gets drawn away. But then he slams the door on them. They're isolated by these 2 doors in different rooms, and I thought that was really nice. I
didn't think so because the element of being the element of the clown controlling this of drawing one back, right, and making the other 2 oblivious, that wasn't signaled, right? So eventually you realize that the child has been drawn out, right? But through what means,
Well, that was clear. That was clear to me.
Well, it wasn't clear.
The one. So the 3 kids.
So why didn't the 2 kids going forward look back or ask?
Well, then they should have. But they're not constantly checking. They're all together. It's just that the one kid who's behind them, they haven't noticed has gone. And by the time the kid's chasing them down, the door slams. And oh my god!
See, to me, that wasn't very effective.
Okay.
I mean, there should have. You could have created kind of tension around the situation from like the degrees of knowledge of to what the extent to which the clown was controlling it, or to the extent that the children were being careless amongst themselves. And whereas I would agree with you that eventually you see how the clown is controlling the child at the back. Why the children at the front are unaware when they've agreed to remain all together. Are they being hypnotized as well? Are they being played with? Are they just oblivious? Right? Like, kind of, you could have done stuff with that, really. That is not there.
Yeah. I don't know why the girl goes after the stammering kid when it's the fat kid who is in love with her, clearly, sends her the letter, or, writes her the anonymous note that then she discovers.
That's done. I mean... Well, it's not done.
Clearly, they're meant to be together. I'm only saying this because I was that fat kid.
Yeah, well, you were out of luck, baby. Because that's the reason why they don't end up together. Because, the other one might have a stutter, but he's taller and cuter. And not only that, and better matched physically with her.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's always your way, isn't it?
But
they're such a body fascist.
They also have a history, right? Yes. Because the guy with the stutter was the first boy who'd ever kissed her in that play that they did. Right. So it's like
But I think the fat kid needs to get
out of luck.
Fat kid needs to get a look in. Also, why is the fat kid scared of a headless man when clearly he should be scared of cholesterol?
Well, a lesson to us all.
Did you see the tits on that kid? Couldn't take my eyes off them. There's a bit where they're all topless, and this is in IMAX as well.
I hope you're erasing all of this.
No, that stays in. I'm going to post
anyway, let's wrap it up. Yeah, I think we have enough material.
Which is not what the writers of It said. It's a joke about how the story's gotten really nothing.
No, it hasn't. Also,
but I am looking forward to the sequel. I want to see what happens in 27 years' time.
Well, some people have enormous appetites for trash.
No, steady on. I think it's well produced. I mean, what did we see before? We saw the trailer for the new Saw film, and I love Saw to bits. And it will be the 8th. No, the 8th or the Saw 3D was the 7th. So it'll be the 8th Saw film, and God knows what's going to happen. But there's going to be a whole load of new traps, and that's what I care about.
Well, I get that.
And so with the second It film, there's going to be a whole load of new creepy things, or maybe they'll be the same creepy things.
Yes,
but
we'll see how clowns torture adults as well as children.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually quite an that's a nice little. It would be nice if it was, because obviously it's going to end with the second film, because I think it's where the book ends.
Maybe not if it's.
But it would be nice. It would be nice if they went, okay, now we're going to fight them when we're all 65 years old or so.
Anyway, so let's wrap that up. Actually,
yeah.